Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm Brandon. I will live stream my wife giving me a mullet if I get 500 new Patreon subs by the end of the month, Perna. That's a guarantee. Now, we've made it to the divisional round of the playoffs, and I legitimately believe the best teams are playing this weekend. Even the Rams upsetting the Seahawks was not a big surprise. And the Browns proved 2 weeks in a row the Steelers were the worst 11-0 team in NFL history. So today I will look at the big weakness that could cost each deserving team a win. As a man who is weaker than most teenage boys, I am very qualified for this job. Also, sidebar, I host a show for the Game Day YouTube channel every Wednesday evening called Odd Man Sports, so feel free to check that shit out. We got playoffs, weaknesses. That's good, sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. It really makes my life easier and helps me out. Today's episode sponsored by HelloFresh, or as I call it, the thing I can't live without. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code That'sGoodSports10 to get 10 free meals, including free shipping. My wife and I brought a baby into the world this year, which means our free time vanished, just like my Broncos playoff hopes. I struggled to find the time to get to the grocery store, and when I made it, I never knew what to buy for dinner.
Beef and cheese tostadas.
HelloFresh fixed that by delivering their 5-star, easy-to-follow recipes, fresh produce and meats right to my door. Everything is easy to prepare, and I have dinner ready for my wife and me in about 30 minutes. Now I just need HelloFresh to send someone to do those dishes. The packaging HelloFresh uses to ship your food is almost entirely made from recyclable and/or already recycled content, and when your schedule gets turned upside down, HelloFresh's flexibility allows you to add extra meals or change delivery needs at your convenience. So again, go to HelloFresh.com and use code That'sGoodSports10 to get 10 free amazing meals plus free shipping. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is incredibly lucky. They don't have to play a mobile quarterback this weekend. Unless Drew Brees gets hurt, of course, and Taysom Hill takes over. The number one reason Washington made their game close last weekend was because Taylor Heineke used his nice, juicy legs to Houdini out of pressure and gash them when plays broke down. The Buccaneers absolutely stuffed Antonio Gibson to the tune of 2.2 yards per carry. They have stuffed every back this season, best in the league. They get Devin White back on defense, which will make it even tougher for the Saints to stretch the Bucs D on runs. So Tampa Bay's weakness might just be right guard after Alex Capa got hurt. The number one way you defeat Tom Brady is with interior pressure. Tampa did a great job protecting the edges against the football team, but in the second half, Daron Payne started to get Brady up the gut. So Tampa's flaw might just be protecting the middle without their starter in there. It could be Sheldon Rankins, David Onyemata, or Malcolm Brown who we're talking about as difference makers after this game for the Saints. The Saints, their weakness? Luck. Going back through the last few years in the playoffs, the Saints have been on the wrong side of some horrible luck in close games. The Minneapolis Miracle and the terrible luck of drawing a playoff juggernaut in Kirk Cousins in the wild card round last year. All right, maybe that one doesn't count. But this week, you have the Saints' bad luck paired with the never-ending great luck of Tom Brady, who just somehow kept that horseshoe inside his ass when he left New England for Tampa Bay. And even if that horseshoe gets pulled out, there's still a gaggle of four-leaf clovers up there. You can get away with bad luck against a bad team like the Bears, but against Brady, you have to be prepared for shit to go horribly wrong and still figure out a way to win. Bad calls by paid-off refs, lucky bounces, the fickleness of the gooch in a big moment. Their only way to avoid this is to make sure it's not even close, just like it wasn't in the 2 games between Brady and Brees in the regular season. They say it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think it's probably harder to beat a team that showed they can kick your ass regardless of location. Just ask the 1999 Jaguars, who only lost 3 games that season, all 3 times to the Tennessee Titans. Can New Orleans beat the Buccaneers? Weird question considering the Saints outscored them 72-26 in their first 2 games this season. Everything depends on the Saints committing to Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and Drew Brees rekindling what he had with Thomas last season in the passing game, and New Orleans not trying a bunch of gimmicky gadgetry early in the game. The Green Bay Packers. It's hard to find an obvious weakness for the Packers and the smoothest quarterback in all the land. But try and go back to last year and remember why they got crushed in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. It was their run defense, which this season gave up 4.5 yards per carry. It's not terrible, but it's got the potential to limit Aaron Rodgers' impact on the game. The Rams were middle of the road running the ball this season, but rookie Cam Akers coming off a career day against the Seahawks last week. Also, I think the matchup of this week of all the games is Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams. Both are arguably the best in the league at their position, and Ramsey against number 1 receivers this season has been dominant. This is one of those games where the Packers would have to blow it though in order to lose. Turnovers, huge drops, special teams goofs, that kind of thing. Both teams playing at full steam ahead favors the Packers, but they have blown it in this situation before. Remember 2011 when they had a bye and lost to the 9-7 Giants? The Rams play similar style to that team. Hot and cold quarterbacking, solid run game, and really good defense. Of course, the Packers have a much better head coach now. The Packers also signed offensive lineman Jared Beldier, who was playing last weekend against the Bills for the Colts, which would have made him the first player to play for 2 different playoff teams in the same playoffs. But he now tests positive for COVID. But by some miracle, no Packers have been deemed close contact with Beldier. But keep an eye on the Packers' COVID testing this week. The Rams are not the team you really want to be down COVID lineman who you brought in to replace your star tackle who is done with injury in David Bakhtiari, so another weakness might be the line, a little bit, for the Packers. The Rams. As we transition to the Rams, a weakness might be the fact that they have had a strange season, where they really played very few offenses that were really, really good. The 49ers beat them twice, and they played the Seahawks after Russell Wilson trademark let Russ cook, and he was never good after that. The one legitimately great offense they faced, though, was the Bills, Week 3, a game they lost 35-32. Now Aaron Donald is supposed to best Aaron Rodgers with torn cartilages in his ribs and live up to the moniker, the Terminator. Injuries and throwing are really the Rams' weakness. The Rams' win over the Seahawks was a pretty impressive upset considering their starting quarterback, John Wolford's neck got played like an accordion by Jamal Adams, and 1 out of every 4 Jared Goff passes came out looking like a 2015 Peyton Manning duck thanks to the 4 of 4 pins in his right thumb. Throw in Cooper Kupp's knee injury, and the passing game for the Rams is a little dicey. Not ideal when the guy on the other side is about to win his 3rd MVP. The Rams' passing game was an issue before Goff's injury as well, just 20 touchdowns to 13 picks this season. He and the Rams got the win while he completed just 47.4% of his passes against Seattle's defense. By comparison, Tim Tebow, also in a playoff win against the Steelers, completed 47.62% of his passes, but then went on to notch a 34.62 completion percentage in a blowout loss to the Patriots. For the Rams, it's going to come down to their defense keeping it close, which they're built to do, if Aaron Donald can repair himself like Schwarzenegger in Terminator. The Kansas City Chiefs. Hard to pick out a weakness for a 14-2 team that's still the reigning Super Bowl champ. They haven't played a really meaningful game in a long time. They've had the AFC West locked up since October of 2019 and haven't really had to flex their muscles this season. partially because it's come so easy to them and also because they faced one of the easier schedules in the NFL this year. Despite winning 11 straight before resting their starters to end the season, those last 7 victories were one-score margins. I just don't think Kansas City has really had to play hard since the Super Bowl last year, outside maybe a couple Raiders games this season, and the Browns have been in war mode the whole fucking season, just by virtue of being the Browns and having to scrape their way into the playoffs and win a game with seemingly everything going against them. If I have to nitpick though, I would say the Chiefs' edge rush isn't great. Frank Clark has 2 fewer sacks than he did last season and 4 fewer tackles for a loss, and that's not even a huge dip in production. He really turned it on in the postseason, nearly matching his season sack total last year, so can he do the same this postseason? Comparatively though, the Chiefs have 13 fewer sacks overall this year than they did the year prior. Again, I'm nitpicking, but they haven't been quite as good at pressuring opposing quarterbacks. They also have given up the 6th most points in the 4th quarter. So maybe that's why they've only been having one-score victories, even though they've kind of been dominating those wins. Luckily for them, the only playoff team worse in that category is the Browns, who allowed the 4th most points in the 4th quarter. So here we are, Cleveland Browns. The biggest weakness is they might have too many coaches and guards healthy on the field this week. I'm scared Chase Claypool might be right.
A bad loss, but Browns are going to get clapped next week, so it's all good.
Obviously, Cleveland needs a huge game from Chunt. The Steelers' defense was 11th best against the run this year. The hope for Cleveland is keeping Mahomes sidelined, as the Chiefs were 12th worst against the run this season. Even though they lost to the Ravens in that second game, the Browns prove they can compete in a shootout. That's the only way they will best Kansas City, is winning a shootout. Their weakness is the same as it was last week, their secondary. They do get a key piece back though in Denzel Ward, but unless he was out because the Browns were cloning him so he can cover both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, they will not be able to depend on 4 interceptions and a botched snap from Mahomes like they were gifted by Big Ben and Marquise Pouncey, the world's most famous criers. I like the Kareem Hunt revenge angle, and if he hates the Chiefs as much as he hates women, Kansas City might die by their own sword. Burn, burn. The Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson lost his mind when a reporter named Mike Jones asked him a question in his presser.
Mike Jones, that's it. Mike Jones, that's it right there. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Obviously, for those of you with it in popular culture, Mike Jones is very famous for losing his celebrity death match to Paul Wall. Lamar Jackson proved he doesn't need to throw for a ton of yards to win in the postseason. In fact, I like the Ravens' chances when they just let him run, which he should be able to do against Buffalo. So unlike last week when I said throwing might be the Ravens' weakness, this week I will say it was last week's strength, an aggressive defense. Brett Coleman put up an interesting stat. Baltimore was number 1 in blitz percentage this season and 3rd in man coverage. Josh Allen is a master under pressure, throwing 18 touchdowns and just 2 picks against the blitz this year. Where Ryan Tannehill struggled last week under duress, I think Allen might be able to pick the Ravens apart. The Ravens have only allowed a 300-yard passer twice this season. Once to Baker Mayfield in a win, and then a loss to Patrick Mahomes. So defending Josh Allen now is officially like defending Mahomes. Buffalo Bills. So I chatted with Bills YouTube star Dan Mitchell on my That's Good Broncos channel. If you want to listen to that podcast or watch it, you can check it out there. I want to shout out at mboat6, who posted this poetry for Bills fans. Beat the Ravens. Edmonds Allen Poyer. What a sweet, sweet poetry reference. Although I would adjust it to Beat the Ravens Evermore by Edmonds Allen Poyer. Now last week I said the Bills' biggest weakness was their Hail Mary defense, and it turns out they exercised that demon against Phillip Rivers' aging arm. What I did not mention is the Bills haven't even used their secret weapon yet. Stephon Diggs walk-off touchdowns in the postseason. They may want to save that though for the championship game, but it's there when needed. The Bills have had to play against this guy twice. Andrew Van Ginkel, Gator Killer. If they can handle that man twice a season, then maybe they can slow down Lamar Jackson on the ground. Their run defense, which allowed 163 yards to the Colts, is what could cost them this game. Next to the Browns secondary defending the Chiefs' pass attack, the Bills' run D against the Ravens' slew of rushing weapons is the biggest mismatch of the weekend, in my opinion. Assuming Buffalo has better starting field position throughout this game, I believe Josh Allen can use his arm to keep up with Lamar's legs. The Bills did sign former Giants and Falcons running back Devontae Freeman to add depth after the Zach Moss injury, and as I mentioned last week, Buffalo struggles to run even in short yardage situations, which is why I want the Bills to mimic the Ravens a bit and encourage Josh Allen to run the ball more. 60 rushing yards from Allen and 300 passing yards in this game, and the Bills... Buffalo!
All the way this time!
Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. I'm on Twitter at Brandon Perna and Instagram at Benchwarmer Brew. That's where I'll be posting a bunch of football stuff.